What's the worst movie you've ever seen?
Probably The Room, Troll 2.
You're stealing my list again. God damn it.
Jaws the Revenge.
Have you ever seen The Room?
Leprechaun 4 are probably the most.
Leprechaun 4 is bad.
I haven't seen any of these. I think
very
probably
bad.
the worst movie I've ever seen. It's called The Kissing Booth. It's on Netflix. It's just a really bad teen romantic comedy.
Yeah.
But they came out with 3 of them somehow. There's a lot of these shows coming on Netflix like this. They're just fucking trash.
I watched the new James Wan movie, Malignant.
James Bond?
Wan. He directed The Conjuring and Insidious and Saw. No, he wrote Saw. Anyways, he has a new horror movie out on HBO Max called Malignant, and it is, one of the worst movies I've ever seen. I'm not a big James Bond fan. I tried to watch Casino Royale, which is supposed to be like the best one.
I thought Skyfall was.
Skyfall was pretty good. I did like Skyfall.
I like Skyfall.
Casino Royale's terrible. Like, it starts off with this really cool action scene, and then it's like 2.5 hours of playing cards.
What do you think about Daniel Craig overall? His name's Craig, right?
Yeah,
Daniel
he's
Craig.
good. I like Daniel Craig.
Yeah.
But that movie, I'm just not a Bond guy. I would take every Mission Impossible over any Bond. There's 25 of those fucking movies. You realize that?
Somebody was saying how there might be a female James Bond.
Yeah, and then Daniel Craig came out in an interview and said, why don't they just make a different concept that's not James Bond and be equally as good instead of trying to recreate every fucking thing under the sun?
That's a good-ass point.
I like
Samantha Bond.
I like Idris Elba. I think he'd be a good James Bond.
Who?
The dude you'd know him from The Office.
Oh, Charles Payne.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would be a fucking good James Bond.
He would.
Fuck, he was in the new Suicide Squad.
Yep. He's in The Wire. He's in a bunch of good
With
stuff.
a fucking British accent. That
Yeah.
fucked me up. Dude, so I was watching this one movie with Daniel Craig, but he had a Western accent.
It's so bad.
Yeah, you know
Knives
what I'm
Out.
talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so bad, dude.
He's so bad at it.
Yeah,
Do you
was
know
awful.
that? So he did 3 Bond movies and he didn't want to do any more, but part of his negotiations were that he got royalties off the James Bond character, which actually makes him the highest paid actor in Hollywood because he gets so much money from the James Bond character.
That's insane.
I saw Disney announced that they're releasing all their stuff theaters only rest of the year.
That's bullish.
They're backpedaling hard after the Scarlet. Well, also Shang-Chi, record-breaking Labor Day weekend, 90 million, 4 straight weeks, #1 movie in America. It's got 196 million to date. Black Widow's only got 180.
Dude, do you think Scarlett, do you think she started this revolt? I guess it's not a revolt because they are willingly doing this.
I mean, it feels like they're getting a lot of pushback. Chris Nolan broke up with Warner Brothers. He's taking his next movie to Universal now.
Good, then they'll have they can make a ride about it.
He was so pissed about HBO Max doing Tenet and all the shit that got stirred with that. So
Wait, why was he mad about that?
Because he wanted Tenet to be in theaters.
It was in theaters.
I know, but they didn't do the rollout like he wanted.
He's a straight up fucking artist though, so you can't disrespect that dude's vision.
Well, he's got quite the contract with Universal, so he wanted total creative control, so he gets final cut on his movie.
Good.
No studio input, no editor
Good.
input.
You know what happened when
He gets a $100 million marketing budget.
Good. Actually, I don't know.
That's
a little
kind of big.
ridiculous.
And he gets a blackout period where Universal will not release another movie in theaters or on streaming 3 weeks prior to his or after.
That's a little.
Is the only product they can put out for 6 weeks. And then it has to be in theaters for 100 days before it can go to streaming
100.
days. Yeah. It can't go to streaming until it's been in
I
theaters
say
for 100.
60 is good enough. If you have $100 million marketing budget and people haven't gone to theaters after 60 days, then
Is that what he's sitting there thinking? If Warner would have gave me that $100 million to promote Tenet, this would be fucking selling like hotcakes. I got
Probably.
blackballed.
probably. Why do you need a $100 million budget?
No, that's $100 million just for marketing.
I
He wants
know.
$100
That's
million
what I know.
for the production and the marketing.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Hold on, I gotta shut my dog up. With this $100 million marketing budget, has no one even came out with what his new movie is gonna be about?
I think it's about the creation of the atomic bomb.
Oh.
I think that was what I heard. I don't know much more than that. He's pretty secretive anyway, so I don't know if he's released much more than that. But
Do you think he peaked with Interstellar?
I kind of feel like he got his creative mojo damaged. Like he got his pride hurt a little bit. Like everybody was just ready to ride with him anywhere, and then he got questioned a little bit, and then he got
Tenet?
scared. No, on Interstellar.
Yeah, there are some mixed reviews on it, and I
And
don't
it's
get it.
like that was where he kind of pulled back. He's like, all right, I'll make like a safe Oscar movie. I'll do a war movie.
Dunkirk was after.
Yeah, and then everybody liked him again. He's like, okay, I'll do something crazy. And then he does Tenet, and everybody's like, this. Now he's gonna go back into like historical drama and do this atomic bomb movie.
He just needs to be like, fucking Inception was a work of art. I think it's one of the best like original thrillers of all time. There's nothing else like it.
Oh yeah, I'd say
except The Matrix, kind of.
Yeah, I'd say it's definitely one of the best movies of the last decade. But speaking of Chris Nolan making awesome spy movies, what if he did a James Bond?
I think that's an awesome idea. I really do.
You think he should do that, or you want him to do more original stuff?
I think he did Tenet instead, dude. I think he heard that people thought it'd be a good idea, so he fucking made Tenet.
That's probably true.
Because that's a spy movie, isn't it? I still haven't seen it.
Kind of. I don't even remember.
He would be awesome.
What the fuck
James
are those
Bond,
people
dude.
doing?
I wish he fucking put...
They're just all backwards. It's the backwards man.
Is he still teamed up with his brother?
Who are we talking?
Christopher.
Oh, Nolan?
Yeah.
I don't know.
What if that's why he lost his creative mojo? Because
Maybe.
Jonathan's too busy with Westworld.
It's being diluted.
Yeah.
You know what? I was watching another shitty movie on HBO Max
No way.
called Reminiscence.
Okay.
And I was like, this is like a really shitty Christopher Nolan ripoff. So I looked up who made it, and it was Jonathan Nolan's wife. So it is. It's kind of like they're just all branching off and diluting the main line.
Dude, that sucks. Because, yeah, Jonathan, I think he's like so encompassed in Westworld. I wouldn't be surprised if he's not either A, not in the writing credits whatsoever for the new shit, or B, perfect word, like you said, diluted.
But yeah, there's been a number of directors coming out speaking against it. Like the guy that made The Many Saints in Newark, the Sopranos movie, said he straight up wouldn't have made the movie if he knew it was going to be on HBO Max the same day. Like he only wanted to do it to make a theater movie.
Okay, so there needs to be a little more transparency between creators, directors, whoever is going to be having rights to their shit, because obviously people are getting upset about it. Like it seems like one story after another. You got Scarlett getting pissed. You got that guy getting pissed. Like no one straight up switched from Warner Brothers.
Well, and Denis Villeneuve, I finally got the pronunciation down.
Who the fuck is that?
He directed Sicario and Arrival,
Oh, dude.
Blade Runner 2049.
Sicario was sick.
He's like the best director going right now. He's my favorite.
So I haven't seen Blade Runner. Is it good?
Blade Runner 2049 is so good. It's better than the original. It's very good.
It sounds like a really cheesy, like a Mad Max type movie.
It is, but it isn't. It's way more, I don't know. It's way more visually and like cerebrally appealing.
More visually appealing than Mad Max?
Yeah. 100%.
They do a better job of being visually appealing than these guys who only had to shoot in a desert but made a movie cinematic as fuck.
Yeah, watch the original Blade Runner in 1982 and it still holds up. Like the special effects in that are amazing. Anyways, his new movie Dune comes out at the end of October, and he did the thing where he adapted it from the book and split it in half, but he only gets to make the second half of the book if the first movie makes a ton of money, because the cast is huge and he spent a shitload of money on this. But it's coming out on HBO Max the same day. So he's really fucking panicked that he's not going to be able to do this to end the movie that he basically already started.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, so he's got a lot riding on this, and it's gotten great reviews. It looks awesome. But yeah, if it doesn't make really good money, then you might not ever get to see the end game to this being Infinity War, if that makes sense.
Oh, damn. If it doesn't make good money, that's so fucked.
Yeah.
That sucks so bad.
And it doesn't look good because everything on HBO Max has not made very much money in theaters. Like Suicide Squad had a huge budget, had James Gunn, had all these stars attached, and it made shit in the theaters because it was on HBO Max the same day.
So do you think that these directors demanding it not be on HBO Max are in the right?
If that's going to play into the negotiations as to what they get to make and how much they get to spend on it, I think they have every right to be angry about it. It also really surprised me that Universal made the decision to put Halloween Kills on Peacock the same day, because that was going to be guaranteed. I was going to theaters for that. I was kind of baffled by that, because Halloween especially, like that's a big, people go do that. They go to haunted houses. Like that gets people out and going to movies. And to take away a big attraction like that for that season, I was really shocked that they made that decision. But the Delta variant shit the numbers have been crazy. So did you happen to see Rolling Stone's list of the top 500 songs of all time?
No, do I want to?
Probably not.
Oh my God. What is it?
Number 1 is Respect by Aretha Franklin.
Number 1.
Number 1 all time.
Do you think they truly think that, or you think they're trying to?
Well, they took a poll of like 4,000 people, so this was the consensus number one.
Only 4,000? That's a pretty small pool.
Yeah. I don't know who these people are either. I don't know if it's columnists, artists, producers, but yeah. The last time they did this list back in 2004, which is the last time I probably gave a shit about Rolling Stone, and Respect was number 5 on that list, so it moved up 4 spots to number 1. What surprised me more, though, was number 2 was Fight the Power by Public Enemy, all time. And on the previous list in 2004, it was number 322. So it got 321 times better in the last 15 years, 17 years.
That's not right. I don't even know what to say.
Yeah.
What else is insane on there?
The list is nuts. There's a lot of Outkast and a lot of Missy Elliott. I like both of them, but I wouldn't consider like best all time. Like Hey Ya is number 10. Best song ever written. Missy Elliott, Get Your Freak On is number 8. Smells Like Teen Spirit is number 5.
There we go. I'm fine with that.
Like a Rolling Stone, Bob Dylan is number 4. It used to be number 1, so it fell down 3 spots. How does it feel?
I was thinking of Like a Stone by Audioslave.
No, not Audioslave.
That's a good ass song.
Yeah, it's okay. Well, the other thing that I thought was odd about that, I don't know the criteria of how you rate a good song. I don't think you necessarily have to write it, but Respect is originally an Otis Redding song. So it's kind of weird that the number 1 song of all time is technically a cover.
Yeah, people probably don't even know that, man.
Right?
There's no way people know that. Don't bring it up to their attention. They'll get fucking pissed.
I like Otis Redding, but I've never heard his version of that song. I think everybody thinks it's an Aretha Franklin song. It's like Come On Feel the Noise. That's not a Quiet Riot song. That's a Slade song.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
There's a few. Songwriting credits are weird. There's been a lot of conversation around that.
Yeah, you heard about Olivia Rodrigo?
I have.
Yeah? What do you think?
I feel like it's shit. Everybody's shitting on her. I love that fucking
people are
record.
shitting on her?
Yeah.
I didn't hear anybody
It feels like everybody's storming her, calling her a fraud, and she ripped off Paramore and Taylor Swift, and it's like, leave this 16-year-old alone.
Yeah, man. I'm pretty sure Taylor Swift and her are like supposed to be friends.
Yeah.
And then Haley Williams posted something on Twitter like, "Oh, our publicist is whiling." After
yeah,
it was like headlines of her getting song credits. It's like, don't even post that shit.
Well, and now it's kind of like, it's just like a butt covering move to put songwriting credits if your song kind of sounds like someone else. There was a whole bunch of backlash for Drake's new album because he credited R. Kelly as a songwriter, and it's just because it sounds like one of R. Kelly's songs.
So did he have to?
There's a song playing in the background during a sound clip. It's actually not like any lyrics or anything, but yeah, he's in the credits and everybody's like, well, what the fuck? Why would you put R. Kelly on your album in 2021?
Because he has to legally?
Yeah. There's his song is playing in the background of a sound clip.
I listened to the Paramore one, and if you take the skeletons and bones of Misery Business, the song structures are the exact same. I agree with that, but a lot of song structures are the exact same, so.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say. There's so many artists using the same click tracks and Pro Tools. Like, you can Google a fucking rabbit hole of mashup tracks of fucking anything now. I don't think that necessarily points to any kind of creative ownership. I mean, I kind of liked what Elvis Costello said when they tried to call Olivia out on sampling and reusing the guitar riff from Pump It Up. He basically just said, like, it's fine. That's how rock and roll works. Take broken pieces of another, make it into something else. That's what I always did.
Inspiration started from fucking somewhere.
Well, and there's even been people claiming like she plagiarized her aesthetic for her album with like the cheerleader stuff. Like, how can you say you have ownership over a jaded cheerleader look? Like,
you think any baby on an album copied Nevermind?
Right. Courtney Love was saying that she copied the Live From This album cover by having like this jaded high school look. Pom Pom Squad said the same thing.
Courtney Love copied everything from Kurt, so she can shut the fuck up.
But yeah, I mean, that was the same thing with Katy Perry and her lawsuit for Dark Horse, where
that one's just a little synth with. That's it.
Right. And the lawyer's argument was basically like, this is such a simple fucking beat. Like, it's not even significant enough to have proprietary ownership of.
Should judges even be making rulings over something they have no clue over?
I wouldn't think so. I mean, it just seems kind of ridiculous.
Do you think maybe they should bring like and this sounds like a lot of overkill, but like a PhD in music or somebody like who knows what the fuck's going on, who like maybe has like understanding of music theory
And if you start doing this with music, there's so much fucking content. Where do you draw the line?
Yeah, content creators posting the same shit.
Well, exactly. I mean, we're sitting here talking about fucking HBO Max every week. Is HBO Max going to start charging us for making something based on their content? Dan Le Batard's show is talking about NFL and NBA. They're not paying those entertainment sources for their content. You can kind of do the same thing with fucking comedy. You're a big Office fan. The That's What She Said jokes are straight out of Wayne's World. Is Lorne Michaels and Mike Myers going to be coming for all the fucking Office revenue from the That's What She Said t-shirts?
Yeah, no, you're right. You make a very good point. Yeah, I don't know where you draw the line with that. I do think that it's very possible Olivia Rodrigo listened to Misery Business and just wrote her own fucking lyrics and melody over everything Paramore was doing. But what I want to throw in here is that the chorus copies a Stroke 9 song called Letters, which came out before Mystery Business. So now, Stroke 9, you need to get writing credits for both these bands.
So you're just stretching her out even further.
Oh, yeah. I mean, fucking, if Paramore can do it to Olivia, then Stroke 9 can do it to Paramore. Like, if that's how it's going to be. I was a little embarrassed for Paramore and Taylor Swift for a young female artist coming up. And instead of uplifting her, they're trying to take away, like, the success she's having. And that's pretty fucked up.
Well, if you kind of talk about, like, the Russian doll effect, there was that whole lawsuit in the 90s where Queen tried to sue Vanilla Ice for using the bass line from Under Pressure. I was kicking something. Your cat's attacking my heel. So Queen tried to sue Vanilla Ice for using the bass line for Under Pressure, but Queen totally lifts the bass line from Rapper's Delight for Another One Bites the Dust.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
who won the lawsuit?
Vanilla Ice got out of it because he added like a little flute at the end of the bass line, so they didn't have to pay anything. But yeah,
see, that's way more because that bass line is way more deliberate than like the shit that's going on with Olivia.
Right, or Katy Perry, or the fucking Tom Petty, Sam Smith lawsuit.
I don't think judges who don't know a thing about music should like. I mean, there's copyright laws, but man, like music's so subjective. Like, how are you gonna have a judge who may not even have time to listen to music? He's gonna go off what these fucking lawyers say. They probably don't know shit about music either.
And who has proprietary ownership of true stories? If you look at the Apple top 10 podcasts, they're all true crime murder mysteries. Like, don't you have any responsibility to the victims not to make content out of their fucking tragedy?
At that point, you're just exploiting and profiting off the horrible things people went through. It's little more, not little, it's way more messed up than Olivia having a riff from Elvis Costello.
Hang on a second. I gotta go take a shit.
A whole shit?
A whole shit.
Oh my god. I'm in the business of misery. Let's take it from the top. You gotta buy it like an hourglass. Alright, here are the songs. Oh, you're happy and healthy, not me, even if you care to ask. And Stroke 9. Sooner or later, all the songs that we used to appreciate will come rushing back. Same fucking riff. They're not the same song.
Okay, so we're talking about intellectual properties and ownership rights. So today we have on with us Dr. Zack Kruse. Is that correct?
Yeah. I'm
Slap everybody over the forehead with your bona fides, so we know this isn't just some guy talking comic books.
So I have a PhD from Michigan State University, which I earned from the English department there. But my areas of research are in cultural studies and American literature and visual media. So I study comics and film and television and American lit, mostly from the 20th century, but a little bit before and after that. Prior to going to MSU and getting my degree, I was the marketing director for the largest comic book store in the US, where we all worked together. I ran a pretty successful comic book convention for 6 years in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and I had a nationally published comic strip called Mystery Solved that ran in Skeptical Inquirer magazine. It started as a web comic and then got picked up by SI later on. This year, I published a book on Steve Ditko. It is a detailed look at his philosophy as it developed over time. It's not a biography, but it's like an intellectual history or an intellectual biography about his work and how his ideas came to be and what that means for the rest of us, because his ideas reflect something really interesting and strange and profound about the way that political thought changed in the 20th century. So Ditko's work provides a really fascinating sort of lens into that. He's not sort of like the or text for these things. He's not the person that is defining the moment for people, but he is a part of that moment. And because he's producing popular media, particularly characters like Spider-Man and Doctor Strange, who are undeniably some of the most popular media figures or media properties of the 20th and 21st century. And he's infusing his politics and philosophy into those characters. That means something to us because everyone is reading those. Everyone understands those characters in one form or another. And by understanding those characters, they then have some sort of access to the philosophy and politics that he's laying out there. By accepting those characters as heroic or as models or whatever the case may be, we kind of, de facto accept certain elements of his philosophy. Maybe not all of it, but there are parts of it that ring true to each of us in some way. So he's a really important cultural figure in that way.
Okay, so the layman here, like Mr. Ben Kelly to my right, he goes, what do you mean? Stan Lee made all those guys. What are you talking about? Explain a little bit how he got his fibers into all these characters.
So confused.
Poor sweet gentle Ben. So at Marvel Comics, throughout sort of Stan Lee's tenure, the creative process is complicated. And what we know for certain is that Stan at no point was the sole creator of anything he signed his name to ever.
What?
Now there are some Stan Lee there are some scholars who would disagree with that, but which is fine. That is their right. But I'm not sure that there's evidence to support that the claim that Stan really created on his own much of anything. And that goes back to the earliest days when it was Timely and Atlas, before it even became Marvel in the early 60s with Fantastic Four and Amazing Fantasy. So let's just fast forward it to the 60s, because that's the period that people really care about the most, right? In the 1960s, it is Jack Kirby who is bringing ideas to Stan and Martin, and not just Stan, but to Martin Goodman, who is the publisher. For all intents and purposes, it would seem that Martin Goodman was the person who was really in charge of things. Stan was just sort of the go-between between Goodman and the artistic talent and the additional writers that were on staff, right? That's how things appear to have operated. So Kirby is bringing in character after character and idea after idea to the Marvel offices to sort of help buoy the company, because they're flagging. And they were in danger of shuttering prior to Jack sort of helping revitalize the line and sort of reintroduce the superhero characters like Fantastic Four and so on and so forth. So what that means, though, is that Jack was bringing these ideas in and then presenting them to Stan, and then Stan, as the editor, would sort of sign off yay or nay on them. In earlier days, before the superhero stuff really sort of took hold, Stan wasn't even really signing everything. He wasn't even putting his name on stuff, because for all intents and purposes, he was the editor, which there's nothing wrong with an editor. He's a good editor, but he's not a writer, right? In that way, he's not producing these ideas. So, and particularly in his relationship with Ditko, he didn't start signing Ditko's comics until much later into their relationship. So what's happening with the Marvel method is this. There is a story meeting. In that story meeting, Jack Kirby or Steve Ditko comes into the office and they present Stan with some ideas, or Stan has a couple of springboards where he says, hey, I want you to include Loki in this issue, or this Doctor Strange story should be about a haunted house, right? And then Jack or Steve goes back and then writes the entire story. In Ditko's case, what he's doing is he is producing the penciled pages and what he calls a panel script, which is basically just a rough outline of suggested dialogue and descriptions for the action in each of the sort of sketched out pages. He then takes those back, gets an okay on them, and then inks them and finishes them up. That's how it worked through most of the 1960s. Kirby's doing something similar, except his scripts are a little more detailed, and he actually wrote all of his scripts in the margins and on the backs of his original art. So if you get a hold of like Fantastic Four original art, you can see Jack's original script notes there that Stan either ignored or adopted. In Ditko's case, because he did everything separately, you don't actually see it on the original art so much. At a certain point, though, because he got fed up with the way the relationship was going and providing all of the ideas for Stan, who was then taking all of the credit, first Ditko demanded plotting credit, which he got on Amazing Spider-Man starting in issue 18, even though he had been plotting it from the very beginning. And then eventually, though, the relationship between he and Stan broke down to such a point where they weren't even talking, like, at all. There was no communication. So Ditko is just coming into the Marvel offices, turning in Doctor Strange and Spider-Man pages and leaving. And that was it. And Stan would refuse to come out and talk to him. Stan didn't want to have anything to do with him, refused to come out and talk. And it got to a point where Ditko said, the hell with it, and turned in his last Spider-Man and Doctor Strange stories to Saul Brodsky and Flo Steinberg, who were working in the office. And Stan chose not to come out. And he said, okay, see you later. And then never came back. Well, He came back, but not until more than almost a decade later. So that's how things sort of went there. But the major point here is that Stan was not coming up with the ideas for the characters or the major plot points. And that's not just Ditko who claims that. Wally Wood tells stories about that. Gil Kane tells stories about that. Kirby says that. Anyone who worked with Stan in those early days basically tells the same story. You would go into a story meeting, you would come up with the ideas. Stan might make some notes and then type up the notes, but his memory was so bad where he couldn't remember the conversation he had 2 or 3 minutes ago, much less, complicated details of a multi-year story arc like Ditko was working on with Spider-Man and Doctor Strange. So there's just no way.
So as lovable as he is, Stan Lee's more or less kind of just a figurehead.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I think he's a little more than that, right? He made himself a little bit more than that. He is a character. Like the thing that Stan created was himself.
Okay.
Right. And there's something really powerful about that character, because even though that character is not real, that is not really Stan Lee.
Right.
That most recent book, that Abraham Reisman book, True Believer, I think, more or less exposes this pretty definitively. But Stan is not that character, but that character, even for the most ardent Stan Lee hater, whatever that means, it's hard to argue, it's hard to deny that character he created did not resonate with people, right? Yeah. I mean, that cartoon character, that fictitious, carnival barker character that he created for himself popped. Kids loved it.
Oh, and lovable grandpa.
Yeah, he's your grandfather, your uncle, whatever the case may be. He made you feel cool for this thing that everyone else made you not feel uncool for doing, right? He made you feel like you were a part of a club or a community, and there's no denying that. So, he was not kind or good to his collaborators, but you can't understate like what he did to keep comics alive and in the public conversation for 50 years. Which he did.
So it'd be more like crediting Walt Disney with every cartoon Disney put out.
Yeah, right.
Steve Jobs, he had other people helping him with Apple, but he was more or less selling it, keeping things going forward.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what Stan did too, right? He made it his business to not only sort of create his own brand for himself, but it was him in the early days that was trying and failing miserably to get Marvel sort of sold in Hollywood as cartoons, as movies, as television series. I mean, there was a few successes along the way, but nothing really major happens until Avi Arad comes along in the 90s. So
that's what this current lawsuit is referencing, basically saying these people that worked for Marvel that helped create these characters want to have more shares of all the profits that Disney's raking in right now. And that's what Ditko's estate is essentially suing for.
Well, okay. So I'm not the best person for as it relates to sort of like the legal technicalities and jargon.
Mm-hmm.
There are plenty of legal scholars and copyright scholars out there that are way more in tune with this than I will ever be. But a couple of things. First is that the Ditko estate is not suing. What they've done is they've filed a termination notice for the copyright. The copyright is set to expire in 2023, and they're claiming that Marvel's copyright on that is no longer valid.
Okay.
And then now Marvel is suing the Ditko estate, saying, yes, it is. But they're not just suing the Ditko estate, they're suing Larry Lieber, Stan's brother, and a number of other folks who have similar claims in the pipeline. Larry Lieber is the co-creator of Iron Man with Jack Kirby, and also the co-creator on Thor, even though you could probably argue those are mostly Kirby ideas. Larry did contribute to them. So if this goes through, then the copyright would return to the Ditko estate where it belongs. And then if Marvel wished to continue to produce Spider-Man things or wanted to purchase the rights to Spider-Man or Doctor Strange, then they would have the ability to do so. So in the example of like the Siegel and Schuster, like the Superman estate, I don't know what the arrangement is now. I know it's changed because of the Superboy lawsuit and a number of other things, but like DC Comics, Warner Brothers, Time Warner, AT&T was paying an annual sort of payment.
Like
that they
usage
were saying,
right. Yeah.
Yeah, usage right. So like they're saying, hey, look, we have the rights to these characters, or we have the rights to Superman. We can do whatever we want with him, but we are continuing to pay you, the Siegel and Schuster estates, for these rights. So that's a potential outcome. Another potential outcome is that they get enough shut up money to just go away.
Right.
I don't
it doesn't
think
seem
that's
very likely that Disney's going to lose this stuff. It's just a matter of how much it's going to cost them.
Or how it's going to cost them. So I'll give you for instance here. So Spider-Man's going to be complicated because there's a lot of fingers in that pot. Stan's estate has a claim on it, which is a little dicey, but Jack Kirby has a pretty clear and fair claim on Spider-Man because he created Spider-Man first before Ditko came along and revised the character and corrected it, or created the version that we now know. So that's messy. right? It's not to say that the Ditkos are wrong. They're not wrong, but that was going to be messy. But Doctor Strange is not messy. Ditko created that on his own without any instruction or prompting from Stan or Martin Goodman. They needed a filler story for Strange Tales, and he said, "I've got this one." And that's not just Ditko telling the story. That's a matter of public record from Stan Lee in 1963. Stan writes a letter to a fan who would be famous and important in comics history circles, Jerry Bales. He writes a letter to Jerry Bales explaining what's coming up on the docket at Marvel in the early 1960s. And in that letter, he describes Doctor Strange. He blows it off. He says he doesn't think anything's going to come of it, and that it was entirely Steve's idea. So he's doing a few things there. He's creating distance from himself if it's a failure, right? But most importantly, he's saying that this was entirely Steve's idea. And he also says that Steve brought this character into them.
Right.
That's the same story that Ditko tells. So that's not quite work for hire, right? That's not quite him getting a regular paycheck from Marvel to generate new characters or to ink or to write stories or whatever the case may be. This is something he did entirely independent and then brought it in. So I don't know what case can be made that's different from Siegel and Schuster.
Right.
Siegel and Schuster did the same thing with Superman. Superman was a prefabricated character that they brought to National Comics, DC Comics, that DC then published. Like I said, I'm not a legal expert, but I'm not sure what the difference here is. Something's going to happen with Doctor Strange. That's the character to watch in these discussions, because that's the one that I think is going to matter the most for freelancers in the way that Disney and AT&T deal with freelancers going forward.
Right. Because, yeah, the whole argument is we contracted you to make this work. Therefore, it wouldn't have been created without us contracting you. We own it. Because I mean, photographers run into that. All kinds of freelancers run into that where we hired you, we own this.
Right.
Whereas most people have to draw up the contract. No, you just own the prints. You just own the final logo, whatever it is. You don't necessarily own the raw files just so somebody can't come in and continue to work off of that. That's essentially what they're saying here. It's kind of a labor versus management argument, not to get political, but it seems like, there's a fight over the ownership between, is it your creative property for coming in and making it, or is it the company that writes your check?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that's why I think it might get complicated with Spider-Man, because Steve was assigned to Spider-Man.
Right.
So I'm not sure how that's going to work out, but the Doctor Strange thing is different. That's a character where if the rights revert, then that's going to have significant implications for not just that character, but for swaths of Disney properties.
Right.
Doctor Strange is preeminent, is a preeminent figure in a number of series and a number of major Marvel events that, remain in print.
I mean, you're obviously very into comics. Are you getting fatigued from all the comic book movies yet? Are you still just ready for more?
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, look, I do film stuff too, and I like comic book movies for what they are. And what they are is one and done. Going to see this at the theater, never need to see or think about it again. And they are, Martin Scorsese is right. They are roller coaster rides. They're big, dumb, goofy action CG thrillers that have no bearing on what we might call cinema.
Right.
They just don't. And that's okay. They don't need to be anything other than that. I chafe at people who have this compulsion to make it seem like that what these movies are is high art. They are not. And they shouldn't be. They should be fucking goofy superhero movies where you see cartoon characters punch one another. That's the point. So I like when they're goofy and they're fun and they're silly and they don't take themselves too seriously. I like that. But do I need to see thousands of these? No. I'd really rather go see the card counter and or whatever else is coming out that has some sort of weight to it.
Doesn't it ever frustrate you though when you see people who can make it high art? When you watch The Dark Knight and then you watch Ghost Rider, you don't hope that they aim a little higher?
I mean, sure. I like the elevated versions, whatever that means, right? It's not to say that I dislike those, but I think the thing especially as I've gotten older, I've learned to sort of just appreciate them for what they are and not expect them or demand or pretend that they are something other than. Mm-hmm. And I think when we encounter sincerely interesting superhero movies like, say, Dark Knight, or I think that Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2, I think that's a legitimately good and interesting movie.
Thank you.
I think. There are any number of really interesting comic book and superhero movies, right? But what I chafe at is just the assumption that because those movies exist, therefore every superhero thing that comes out after that should only be for dudes in their 30s and 40s who
Right.
have weird sexual fantasies about superheroes, right?
Yeah.
Like it just, they're not that. They don't need to be that
Right.
at all. So my skin gets a little itchy when I start hearing folks like tell me like how like adult, I'm like, yeah, okay. Right. You are 2 steps away from being a Sonic furry, my friend. Like it's okay to say I like children's media. It's okay to say that my nostalgia sort of governs much of my tastes, right?
Right.
Like, but just don't lie about it. Like, just don't lie about it, and just own it and say like, this is what it is. And when you do that, it opens the world up for you, because then you're not getting in idiotic fights with people. Like you can, like, I'm gonna go see. I haven't have a chance to see Shang-Chi yet, but I love Shang-Chi, the comic book character. I have a complete run of Master of Kung Fu. I love it. I don't know if that movie's going to be good or bad, and I don't care. I just want to go experience this character on a screen. That's all my expectations are. I'm not going to come out. There's no sort of like political agenda going in or coming out. I'm just here to see this thing. And I don't need to, there's nothing to prove there. I guess I don't want to ramble too much, but I think that's the thing. That's the other thing that bothers me is I often feel like when people spend a lot of time defending superhero movies, they have something to prove to someone, that they're still cool, or that the geeks won, or that, or that their dad just doesn't understand them, or whatever. Like something's, there's some angle there that like people are worried about that you just don't need to be worried about, man.
What's the Mount Rushmore of Dr. Comic book movies?
Oh, tough. So Mount Rushmore, that's five dead white guys on it, right? So
I thought that was 4. I've never been. I don't know. You can do 4 or 5.
I've been. It's terrible. It's a total waste of time. Okay, so we'll say it's 5.
All right.
American Splendor.
All right.
Harvey Pekar's American Splendor, easily one of the greatest comic book series ever created, and a tremendous movie. Ghost World, another terrific independent comic series made into a terrific movie. Road to Perdition, very good crime movie, very good comic book series. Cronenberg's History of Violence, amazing film that Cronenberg pulls a Kubrick with it, right? Where he only read like the first 50 pages of the comic and then just made up the rest. But it's a great. I really like that movie, and I like the comic a lot too.
Did you hear the rumor that they were supposed to film the restaurant that Viggo Mortensen works in was supposed to be Coney Island in Fort Wayne?
Really?
And Fort Wayne shut it down.
Those cowards.
I know. That would have been awesome. It's a rumor. I have no validity to check my sources.
What if that's true? What an all-time bonehead play. All right.
I'm gonna look this up now to verify.
And then the 5th one is Into the Spider-Verse. An honorable mention goes to Spider-Man 2.
Thank you.
And Into the Spider-Verse, that is the best superhero movie that I've seen, because it understands the essence of that character in really interesting ways that are completely absent from most other adaptations of that character, or superheroes in general. That is a terrific movie. And it's a terrific movie, not just because of that, but because it doesn't pretend to be only for 40-year-old guys.
All right. I got one more question for you before we get out of here. Obviously, the tragic passing of Norm Macdonald. Do you have a favorite Norm bit you'd like to share with us? I know you're a big Norm fan.
Do I? I have so many favorite Norm bits. So, boy, it's hard to pick. One that I use all the time and I steal from him all the time is I tell the moth joke all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Just some variation of the moth joke. But the one that sticks with me the most is probably one of the first, if not the first, Norm joke I ever heard him do. And it was either at Evening at the Improv or on Letterman, where Norm tells the joke about the guy who murdered his family because the devil told him to do it. And he shows up, he chops up his family, and he shows up to the devil and says, "Devil, I killed my family, like you said." And then the devil pulls off a mask and says, "Oh, it's me, Bob, your friend." And we go, "Oh, Bob, you got me." It's fucking joke. I got my family chopped up in a bag here, And I'm not sure if that's my favorite Norm joke, but that was the first one I really remember, because I heard it as a 10 or 12-year-old kid, and just maybe younger, maybe 9 or 10, and just lost my mind. I had never heard anything like that before. And it just radically changed the way that I thought about jokes. And it is not an exaggeration to say that between Norm and Seinfeld and Mystery Science Theater and 1 or 2 other things, I mean, those things really gave me the language that I use to navigate the world, whether it's just making jokes with friends or like the cadence of, you know, the jokes that I make, or the way that like I deal with horrible shit in the world. Those are the things that like gave me the language for like parsing these things out and like making them work. And boy, I will miss Norm a lot. So there you go. There's a long answer to a very, very short question.
Very unique voice, one of the best. Thank you very much for being on with us, Zack. Author of Mysterious Travelers on Amazon. Everything.
You can buy it on Amazon.
His
you
book,
buy it wherever fine books are sold.
Are you still hosting the Prerequisites podcast?
No, I stepped down from that, but occasionally, sometime in the near future, Ben T and Will Pfeiffer and I will get back together to record another episode of Pictures Within Pictures, which is our comics podcast.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for all your insight.
Good to see you, man.
Listen, that dude's too fucking smart.
He is. All right, you got anything else? You want to skip to recommendations?
I mean, I listened to your Deaf Haven and...
Deaf Heaven?
Deaf Heaven and...
Sleigh Bells.
Sleigh Bells. Rip-off churches and a rip-off turnover, pretty much.
Why do you think everything's a ripoff?
Somebody did it before.
I'm supposed to be the cranky old man in this dynamic.
Why are you Taylor Swift and Paramore's lawyer and sue them all?
Sleigh Bells is nothing like churches.
What do you mean nothing like churches? The voices are pretty comparable.
Somewhat, but one's
The
like
power
really
pop,
like
synth rock.
I mean, they're both used synthesizers, but so does Taylor Swift and Rat-a-tat. They're nothing alike.
Okay, come on. Recommendations though for me would be, shit, I wrote them down. I listened to some new bands this past weekend.
Oh God,
what the fuck is your problem? Don't you bitch at me for not having them? Then I do have them. You're gonna get mad. A band called Typhoon. They're pretty good.
Typhoon.
Yeah.
Do you have any other information just other than their name? Like,
what else do you need besides their name?
Album name, release.
They have tons of albums. Where can you find it? Probably fucking anywhere, Ryan.
Which one did you like? What are you doing besides just naming a band right now?
You said give suggestions. I said.
All right, my suggestion this week is rock and roll. I like rock and roll music.
Any particular rock band? God.
Nope, just the general type. Love me some rock.
Old rock, new rock?
Any kind will do her.
Oh my God.
General rock.
I was a little more specific than that.
Barely. My recommendation is Sleigh Bells, Texas. It's a great album. It's nothing like churches. So Typhoon is a band that you like.
Yeah, I think I do. Somebody showed me last weekend.
You don't even know what it is.
Somebody showed me a spoken word band too, and I fucking puked.
Was there any music?
Yeah, there was. Then he started getting all like
jazz,
poetic, and it's like
that's your recommendation.
It's the worst modern baseball song you've ever heard times 3.
Modern baseball isn't spoken word, so it was like pop punk spoken word.
Yeah, fucking weird.
So I had one from last week. We didn't do a typical show with recommendations and such. Sincere Engineer, Bless My Psyche.
I tried listening to them, but they fucking charge to listen to them on Bandcamp. Who does that?
Listen to it for free on Spotify or Apple Music or anything else.
You think Spotify's free?
Yeah.
It's not.
I don't have an account. I listen to everything on Spotify.
I think they give you ads or something.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was. I had premium. I pay like $10 for it, but
No,
then I don't have anymore.
It's a scam. Just download the app to your computer. Listen to it for free all day.
Oh, I straight up thought that you had to pay for it.
Nope.
Even though I paid for it.
So yeah, Sleigh Bells, Sincere Engineer. Movies, Dirty Work. Norm Macdonald got to make like a Saturday Night Live spin-off show in the 90s. It's very much of its time, as we were talking about earlier. But
I saw as a fucking kid.
It is hilarious. It's on HBO Max right now. It's got Chevy Chase, Don Rickles, Chris Farley, whole bunch of comedy legends. It's the only time he really got to do like a starring vehicle movie, and it's very underrated, very funny. Highly recommend it. And then Midnight Mass. It's getting into spooky season. Mike Flanagan, who made Haunting of Hill House and The Haunting of Bly Manor, has a new miniseries out on Netflix. Very good. It's a little slow, but the final 3 episodes are fucking insane and well worth the wait.
Definitely worth it.
Highly recommend it. It's like 7 episodes. Very good Halloween watch. It's on Netflix. All right. Did you think of anything, Ben?
No.
It's okay.
I know. I watched some shit and I can't remember what it was fucking called. Can't fucking remember and I'm pissed.
Did you watch the show on Netflix where it's a dating show, but they're wearing like furry costumes? It's like The Masked Singer, but it's The Masked Dater.
No, but The Masked Singer looks so bad.
Oh yeah, they have like a CGI version now, where like a little like cartoon version of yourself goes out and sings.
Oh yeah,
it's like motion captured.
Yeah. It's after the Masked Singer.
The judges are Nick Lachey, Alanis Morissette, and Will.i.am.
Oh my god, man, that's an all-star cast.
It is. Do you get kind of annoyed that people are so eager to jump from like being a musician to being like on The Voice? Like Ariana Grande is already a voice host.
Yeah,
Do you think she should be in her prime making music? Like what?
I thought becoming a TV host was stigmatized as your career's over.
Yeah.
So I'm super confused. But
Katy Perry, Nicki Minaj, all like just dove head first.
dude, Kelly Clarkson is so fucking annoying on The Voice, though. Oh my god, she's the worst.
Is she on The Voice?
Yeah, she doesn't shut up.
She's got her own show now. I think she's taken over for fucking
The Voice.
She's taken over for Ellen.
Good. She talks enough for both of them. Dude, she just like when people were mid singing, she's like making comments. It's like she's not respectful.
I think it's just an escape though. Like you realize more and more these pop stars aren't writing their own songs. They don't want to be touring all the time. So once they have that platform, like why the fuck does Rihanna ever need to record another song? She's not going to make another Umbrella.
Say it again with the people in the back. Pop stars don't write their own fucking song.
Did you see that Chelsea Wolfe is doing an album with Converge?
Who the fuck is Chelsea Wolfe?
Dude, fuck you. She's so good.
I doesn't mean I gotta know who she is. There's a lot of good
She's
people.
not Typhoon, but I mean, come on.
Dude.
It's going to be sick. Do you have any like
I don't even remember if Typhoon was good or not, to be honest.
do you have any weird like dream collaborations? Like
What do you mean by that?
just two artists that are just out of left field make a song together. Like when Paul McCartney and Kanye did that song.
that was actually a good song.
Do you have anything like that you'd like to see?
Kanye and anybody.
Kanye and anybody?
I mean, I Kanye in any other
Except
genre
for
that's
DaBaby.
like outside. Yeah, Kanye in any
Marilyn
genre outside of rap and hip hop. I think if Kanye just collaborates with like a rock legend, even like if he collaborated with a country artist, it'd be fucking wild.
What if like Kanye's weird for being like the Republican rapper and the Dixie Chicks are weird for being the Democrat country? What if they collaborated and came together in this weird
Yeah.
intersection of America healing,
Then America
bringing
would
us
be
all
up.
together?
That's what I was thinking, dude. Everything would be good if the Dixie Chicks and Kanye came together. Holy fuck!
I'd like to see Zach De La Rocha join Death Grips. That's my dream collaboration.
I don't know who the first one is, but
Singer for Rage Against the Machine.
oh my god,
I love him.
that'd be sick.
I said it on Twitter and I didn't get much of a response, so I don't think anyone agreed with me.
I think nobody knows his name.
I think he's the best frontman of our generation, and he's just wasting away. I can't believe Rage Against the Machine isn't making music. It makes me sad.
Best frontman.
Yeah. Chester Bennington, I'd say very high silver medal.
Fred Durst started a whole fucking riot.
Yeah, but he sounds like this.
Oh, dude, speaking of that, I just played I Fell Asleep in My Arm last night for my girlfriend.
Yeah, did she like it?
No.
Does that hold up? Aquabats are weird, huh?
I fucking love him. I told her about Pool Party and she didn't believe it was a fucking song because I was singing it. And she's like, there's no way.
Their
And I
new
played
stuff's
it.
terrible. Have you heard it?
No.
They have a song called Pajamas On.
Oh my god. Well, dude, have you ever heard them
It's
play
bad.
like Pool Party on Yo Gabba Gabba?
Yeah, they got rid of all their horns.
Well, they get rid
Fuckers.
of where it's
They're
like
just like churches. They're a synth band now.
it's like girls look cute in their swimming suits. That part is removed. That is not child appropriate.
Yeah.
It's like they're doing shit like that on Yo Gabba Gabba.
We have breaking news.
What?
Bam Margera has been arrested in Florida, Tampa Bay.
For real?
Yeah. He only completed 30 days of his 90-day rehab for failing his drug test.
Damn, man. Poor dude.
This thing is getting out of control. PETA's pursuing criminal prosecution because they found out they filmed the bullfighting stuff in California, and there's actually like an anti-bullfighting law. This thing's like spinning out of control.
Dude, I heard that PETA, they actually are like very anti pit bull and like put campaigns like put pit bulls down under the table and like advocate for it. It's
I
fucked
thought you
up.
meant Mr. Worldwide.